This week brings Eliza to War of the Visions, and I think a lot of people are probably wondering, should you be pulling for her? Because it's a risky time. You saw my monthly planning guide and that we have limited units on the horizon. There's still a ways to go though. Maybe a mystery summer unit coming soon, but if you have some extra viz, she's a really good unit. So I'm gonna go over why I think that and see, maybe some people might end up pulling for her, and you can let me know if you're gonna be one of those people. And yes, some of you are guessing from my image here that I caught some sun today, maybe a little bit too much sun, but don't worry, that's not going to affect my opinion. I'm still in good shape. I just have to keep drinking my water. What I'd like to do today is to break up the pros for Eliza into several categories so you can kind of see how they all come together to make a fantastic unit. So the first thing we're going to talk about are her stats, and specifically that she has great accuracy and great agility. And those are two of the most important stats in the game because she can go pretty fast around other units and she can also reduce CT and agility. We're going to talk more about that later, but basically it means that she can chain by herself on people, and it's a big deal. It also means she can take out those evasive units, and I know that's something that people look for as an important part of a kit. Now, the other stats that I wanted to point out are her missile and defense penetration, because she has both of those innately. She can add some defense penetration on her passive, and then the missile resist penetrations on her master ability. When you look at the other sources of those things, you'll have to go to TP skills or to your AP skills. So she does have one charged shot, which gives a bunch of defense and missile resist penetration. It's basically your really strong finishing attack. It's on her sub job though, and that's important because it kind of affects what other skills you can use. And the skill also has a cast time, so reducing that cast time will be important in order for her to be able to use that to do some serious damage, specifically to people with high missile resist or units like tanks. Now, if you were to use this sub skill that has all these penetrations on it, you're not going to have access to the Trick Lancer sub for that awesome binding javelin, projectile for different types of damage, and you're not going to have access to Sharpshoot and to Barrage on the Ranger sub, and those are all really important skills. So you're really going to have to think about what type of teams you're attacking when you set up your Eliza. For the second grouping of pros, we're going to be talking about utility, and Eliza has a lot of that. She can reduce CT and agility of her opponents with different skills, and that's a really big deal because when you reduce those stats of your opponent, then they are not going to be able to act as quickly. Your team can then chain on your opponent. Maybe they go and get an extra turn. Maybe Eliza gets an extra turn if you have a really slow tank that you're playing against, and that is going to be a big deal because she does have a 3-chain skill that can be used to chain with your other ice units, with your other projectile units, but also to break barriers. Now, it's not going to be as effective as a barrier breaker, but it is going to be more effective than her single target skills, depending on what type of barrier you're attacking. She can also remove Protect and Shell, which is a pretty big deal, and she has status effects that she can use as well. So Berserk is a really powerful status effect that takes your opponent out of the game, although they're still auto attacking. And if you really want to get spicy, then you can go for the Poison Arrow on the Ranger sub. I just want to add on that Eliza can break AP, which is a really powerful effect if you're able to knock a unit out of the fight by making them only able to auto attack or have to generate more AP. So that's a really good piece of utility as well. We also need to talk about Eliza's damage, and I think that she will be a fine damage dealer. She can break defense and then also has the aforementioned missile resist penetration and the defense penetration. She also has an Ice Imperil on her limit burst, which is quite powerful. It also reduces move by 1, so it's a really good skill. It really puts somebody into that dangerous spot where now their move is reduced by 1, their agility is reduced, their CT is reduced, whatever it is, and you can really pound on them. I love it. And if you want to get spicy, you can go over to her Trick Lancer sub job because she has that long range projectile motion but pierce damage skill. That's the binding javelin. So it is like a ranger skill where it has that like 5 height difference. So she can use it just like she's using her missile skills, but she's going to deal pierce damage, and that's pretty good. Eliza does have a few cons. They're really minimal, to be honest. I think the big one is her minimal TP skills, and it's not the end of the world because she has good TP skills. Well, at least on her first 2 jobs, she has good TP skills, but you just don't have that many options. And that's further limited because she will need some sort of AP generation, aka bells, and that's also not a really huge deal for a lot of players. We have access to all sorts of AP generation, but it really does lock you out of using other TMRs because I think she's going to want to get as much AP as possible. I mean, I use bells on Cetia all the time, and it doesn't really like limit her experience, but it's just something to keep in mind that while her TP skills are good, there's just not that many of them. She doesn't provide like a whole lot of utility for your team, but the utility she does provide buff wise is pretty good because she can buff attack and she can buff agility, and those are really good stats. The other thing I put on here is that she needs the Ranger sub to access Sharpshoot and Barrage, and the Sharpshoot obviously is important as a 100% hit attack, although with her accuracy, she doesn't necessarily need it. Now, Barrage is kind of nice because of the AoE. She does have a 9 square AoE. It's not quite as wide as Barrage. It really depends on how you're seeing, you know, your matches go. If you wish you had that big Barrage spread, and if you don't, then you have, you know, the freedom to use the Trick Lancer sub, or maybe to use her own sub so that you can use that super powerful charge skill. It's time to do some comparisons, and I've chosen to compare her to Cetia and to Prompto, and that might surprise you, that second one, but I think it's actually a pretty interesting comparison. So with Cetia, she's not going to out DPS her. So Cetia has 60% innate missile resist penetration, she has more attack, she has defense breaks, she has a barrier break, she has a fire imperil, so she can match Eliza in a lot of the stuff that she can do, but she just has more penetration and more firepower, pun intended. However, Eliza has some things that she has up over Cetia. That agility and CT management is a really big deal, but also just the fact that her accuracy rate is so much higher that you can kind of build for more damage with Eliza, whereas with Cetia, you really have to correct for the accuracy in a lot of matchups. We can also look at the agility stat and see that Eliza is just a lot faster than Cetia is, and I even like something, you know, as simple as the fact that she has 4 more AP. Like, that makes a difference in my opinion. You can build off of that, so that's really cool. She has an initial AP up passive as well that she can use if she really needs to. Now with Prompto, the thing that I think is interesting about them is that they're actually incredibly similar in terms of stats. And what this helps us do is decide how strong Eliza is going to be, because similar to Prompto, she has good agility, she has, you know, lots of utility and imperils and stuff like Prompto does, but she's gonna pump out more damage than him. So there's your benchmark for kind of where she's gonna be, because she has innate defense penetration, she has innate missile resist penetration, and she can access more of those things. Prompto does not have any missile resist penetration, and I think he needs an active skill to use his defense penetration. So you should be seeing Eliza pump out more damage than Prompto is going to, but she's also going to have access to even more utility, less status effects, but you know, some accuracy stuff. She's going to have access to all the stuff that we talked about in the pros, so I think she compares quite favorably to him. At the end of the day, compared to other ranged attackers, because we have plenty, I think that her agility and CT management really sets her apart from the rest of them, and it's going to help keep her alive from people from getting to her, but it's also going to allow your team to mix it up for a longer time in each match and allow you to chain on different people, and I think that kind of raises her to a different level of ranged attacker than what we've seen in the past. Just one thought about the VC coming next week. I talked about it in my monthly planning guide, so you can check it out there, but really if you get Eliza, then you want to get the VC too. If you're planning on getting Elia Ranell in the future, then you also want to get the VC, and if you just have an ICE account, then it's also just a solid VC, but for the most part, a lot of us will skip it because we're not pulling for those units. So that's it. You've made it all the way to the end of the video, and if you've watched this long, then thank you so much. If you don't mind, hit the like button and, you know, maybe subscribe to the channel if you're new. Otherwise, should you be pulling for Eliza? Yeah, you know, I think a lot of people should definitely consider pulling for Eliza, or at least keep her in mind for a select ticket that we get in the future, because her utility is great, and I think she's going to pair up really well with Elia Ranell when she eventually comes out in Global. She's also going to pair super well with units like Rosa, you know, King Curry, and just other missile units, or in just an ICE team as a solo missile unit. I think she can really elevate ICE in the meta, and I don't know if everyone's going to agree with that, but I do really think that she's quite powerful. And from what we can tell, a lot of players used her in JP to great effect as well. Now, I know a lot of you are waiting for Final Fantasy 13 and Final Fantasy Tactics, and I don't blame you. So if you're not going to be pulling for her, that's one thing. But if you are an ice player, or if you like missile units, or you just want to power up your account because you haven't pulled in a while, then you're not going to go wrong pulling for her. But of course, she is non-limited. That is a consideration, and you might end up skipping her to save for more limited units. I personally am going to be skipping, as I just would like everybody else to pull for her, and that's because I'm going to keep on using my fire units. Okay, there, I said it. Fine. I just want you to play ice so I can blow you up with my fire units. There, fine. I'm sorry we had to end on that difficult note, but you drove me there. You really did, and that's on you, viewers. So come on. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was useful for you, and if it was, you can let me know in the comments down below. I love to chat about people and their thoughts on these units. I often learn things after I read in the comments about things I didn't consider, combinations with other units, or whatever else it is that we have going on. So I'll see you all in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next video.